Memoirs of Garrick al-Viktor, Volume 1, The First Fang. By my hand and blood, this is my truth. The cave stank of rot and damp earth, not the kind that clings to moss and stone, but the kind soaked in old bones, where secrets rot instead of fade. I had been tracking whispers for days, whispers of weapons, ancient and cruel, forged by vampire lords long before the Jarl of Whiterun sat in his chair. Better vampire weapons, the rumors called them, crafted in sin and soaked in centuries of blood. Exactly the kind of thing I hunt, exactly the kind of thing I need. I passed deeper into the darkness. My boots crunched over dried roots and cracked skulls alike until I stumbled upon a wall that wasn't a wall at all. A wardrobe, just sitting there, dustless, out of place, too perfect. I ran my fingers along the wood, old yet untouched by time. When I pulled it open, the back shifted, not with the clunk of a hidden door, but the whispers of something that wanted to be found. Behind it, a narrow corridor, cold as a grave and lined with faint claw marks, my kind of path. The chamber at the end was nothing short of a vampire's confession. To my left, a cage, twisted iron soaked in old blood. Inside it, a vampire thrall, eyes glazed, skin like parchment. The poor bastard mumbled to himself, some curse or prayer, I couldn't tell. I left him there. Mercy is dangerous when dealing with the damned. In the corner, a three-tiered stand, bottles of blood, each pulsing faintly, like the heartbeat of something that should not be living. I didn't touch them. Opposite of the cage, a map of Skyrim, riddled with dark red markings. Next to it, a silver chalice brimming with still warm blood. Decorative or functional? I didn't care to find out. Then my eyes caught it. A table, part desk, part altar. Scrolls curled tight as bones. Books cracked open mid-incantation. And besides them, the weapon. An ebony mace, dark as midnight, with a sickly crimson glow etched into the grooves. Enchanted, no doubt. I could feel it humming, like it knew I was there, like it was waiting for someone like me. I took it without hesitation. The journey back to my cabin was quiet, the cold a bit deep, but it felt good, real, alive. I crested the hill just above Dawnstar, snow crunching underfoot. My cabin sat where the trees thinned, a quiet sanctuary carved into the mountains beneath. Before heading in, I stopped by my garden, a strange little mix of my life contradictions. Blue mountain flower, cannabis, and dragon tail, beauty, peace, and fire. I leaned down, inhaled from the cannabis plant. Sweet, earthy, a scent that made the silence around me feel less lonely. I plucked a bud from the stalk and made my way inside. While inside, it's warm, a hearth burning low, the scent of wood smoke and old leather, but the real work waited beneath. I descended into my lair. The walls down here are lined with silver weapons, spears, blades, arrows, each one polished and placed with reverence. Tools of a righteous death. I've used every single one. In the center of the room, two desks facing each other, like a conversation only I can have. One desk is all strategy, a large map of Skyrim, studded with tiny vampire figurines, each one marking a lead, a lair, or a kill. I move them often, sometimes just to think. The other desk is cluttered with scrolls, books, and journals. Everything I've gathered on undead lore, vampire clans, and the monsters that wear flesh like armor. Tonight, I added a new piece to my growing puzzle. The journal I took from the vampire's lair. I placed it gently among the others, then I sat and read.
Research notes, countering the vigilance and dawn guard. My brothers and sisters of the night have become too overconfident. They believe our immortality translates to invulnerability, and none of my attempts to convince them otherwise have been successful. As vampires, our aversion to sunlight, susceptibility to silver weapons, and deadly vulnerability to fire cannot be taken lightly or seen as minor inconveniences. Our powers are many, but those who seek our destruction exploit what few weaknesses we have. I have been called foolish by those I once considered allies. I have been shunned, barred entrance into many of our dens throughout Skyrim, and forbidden to approach any of our leaders. They cannot see, as I do, that the vigilance of Stendarr, and especially the Dawn Guard, have the determination and ability to drive us away from the mortal world, and perhaps eliminate vampires completely. If my own kind will not listen, I will work alone and in secret to study our enemies and hopefully find ways to neutralize their weapons or enhance our defenses. Tamara, investigations into building immunity to silver have proven fruitless. Ingesting even the weakest concentration of silver solution is immensely painful. Dawnguard weapons seem to magically harness the power of the sun to add incredible damage. Attempts to block this sun damage have eluded me. L.S. Liu, fire damage is easily negated or reduced with powerful enchanting, but wearing so many items which resist fire reduces our offensive capabilities. I'm so close. I have finally made a break, bro. Normal enchanting uses the power of soul gems to imbue items with magical energy. But the destruction of these gems in a conflagration of blood magic has uncovered a way to saturate items with an aura. It is difficult to explain, but I believe these auras are fields of raw magicka that, when anchored to PB icicle objects, maintain desired properties and effects. At first, I was able to create small amulets that repelled water, or simple rings which attracted gold coins, but my experiments with weapons they've proven to be the most useful of all. My latest prototype, which I have named Silverbane, has a blending of auras contained within an ebony matrix. Elements they've been siphoned from the weapons of our enemies and combined to create a repulsion effect. The aura of the mace will disarm opponents wielding Dawnguard or silver weapons. It has yet to be perfected, but the results are most impressive. My discoveries will soon be revealed to the leaders among our kind, after further experimentation and replication. I am still working on several calculations and combinations of black soul gems, Anno blood magic to advance our offensive and defensive capabilities. Must find more subjects near my crypt lab. The last of the guards from that town is no longer of any use to me. I will return for Silverbane when I am ready. It will be quite safe there until then.
When I finished, I leaned back. The quiet was deeper now. Waited. I knew what came next, but not where or when. I walked deeper into the lair, past the weapons, past the desk, to a smaller cove carved into the stone. My personal space. A moment away from the blood and steel. I rolled a joint, packed it tight with the bud from earlier, lit it, and let the smoke swirl. As it burned, I thought about my next weapon. One down, 3 more out there, somewhere cloaked in shadows and legend. And I will find them. The Memoirs of Garrick al-Viktor, Volume 2, 4th of Sun's Dusk, 4E 206. The rain hadn't let up for hours. The road to Theseus' forge was as I remembered it, forgotten. Overgrown grass clawed at my boots as I approached the crumbling husk of the structure. The forge sign still hung, swinging gently from rusted chains, more an ornament than a promise of craft. No roof above, only sky and rain. Half the walls stood like broken ribs around the hollow chest, leaving the interior exposed to the elements. I entered cautiously. The stone hearth loomed ahead. A warped pile of unburnt firewood settled inside, untouched, deliberate. Something was wrong. I knelt beside it, brushed aside the stacked wood, revealing a faint metallic outline beneath the soot-dusted ash stone. A hidden hatch. Before I reached for it, my hand caught the edge of a weathered scrap of parchment wedged underneath the firewood, clearly left for someone, or no one.
I arrived too late, Gawain. Theseus is slain, and most of his work is destroned. I will never return to this empty place. It holds nothing but despair for me now. Enter Theseus's forge to see the depravity he committed, and do not judge me too harshly for the justice I delivered.
With a grunt, I pried the panel open. The hatch groaned like a voice exhaling after centuries of silence. A stairwell descended into darkness, the stale scent of brimstone and old steel wafting up. Torch in hand, I followed the path downward until the walls gave way to something different. Theseus' true forge, an underground sanctum blackened with soot and the blood glass forge pulsing faintly with arcane residue. There it sat, the blood glass shield, unlike any Dawnguard steel or vampiric relic I'd seen. Crimson and black, jagged and elegant, my gauntlets trembled as I reached for it. Not from fear, but from the thrill of a hunter claiming his second prize. The rain still fell when I surfaced. Washing soot from my armor, I slung the shield on my back and headed south. Later that night, the forgotten crypt. Fall Creek Cemetery was still. Not even the crows dared linger this late. My map said nothing of this place. It was the whispers of a dying vampire in the reach that brought me here. Hidden beneath a hollow tree stump near the gravestones was an entrance only the desperate and the damned would see. I slid through the damp wood into water coated in death itself. Holding my breath, I dove. Underwater, I felt more blind than usual, but after what felt like ages, I surfaced in a chamber unlike any I'd seen. Massive stone arches stretched over an underground lake black as night. The crypt lay within, forgotten and sealed to the world above. And there it was, an ebony bow infused with something more than just magic. Its limbs were carved like wings, the grip shaped with vampiric filigree. Predatory, ancient. I didn't test its string. I knew this one had stories in it I wasn't ready to hear. I placed them carefully on the wall, their presence instantly shifting the air, heavier, sharper. The war desk was just as I left it, vampiric figurines scattered across the map, their positions tracking movements most men never lived long enough to notice. The other desk sat across from it, cluttered with scrolls, field notes, ash-marked journals, centuries of obsession, written in blood and buried facts. But tonight, I didn't study, didn't mark new leads. I passed by all of it, moved deeper into stone, into the quiet part of the lair where I think best. I lit the brazier, rolled the flower I picked before I left, let the smoke settle in my lungs, and take the weight off my shoulders, if only for a moment. Still, something clawed at the edge of my thoughts. A shape I hadn't seen, but felt. A shadow in the spaces between what I've already found. The weapons I uncovered so far, they were never meant to be scattered. They were placed, hidden, guarded, like a test. But if that's true, then something is waiting at the end of this trail. Something worse than the vampires who made it. Something they feared. Volume 3. Cold Roads and Warm Mornings. 8th of 2nd Seed. I left before sunrise. The storm had passed overnight, but the sky still brooded, low and heavy. I set out on foot, my pack light. Just coin, dried meat, a few potions, and the last pinch of my road smoke tucked behind my ear. The rest I left behind in the safety of steel and stone. Today wasn't about hunting. I was headed for solitude. The journey was long but familiar. Snow turned into pine-thick woods, and the woods turned into swamp. I passed through all of it without seeing another soul. The air was damp and thaw, and everything stank of wet bark and slow decay. But the quiet suited me. By the time I reached solitude, the sun had dipped low behind the mountains. The city was gathering near the execution block. Another beheading, political or personal. Either way, the blade came down fast, and no one wept. I didn't linger. I made it for the Winking Skeever, a tavern I knew better than most people. The door groaned open as I stepped inside, and warmth spilt over me like a welcome I didn't ask for. Need, fire, and the hum of conversation. It felt normal. Almost. I took a seat near the hearth and ordered a Blackbriar Reserve. First sip hit clean, burned a little. I let it sit on my tongue. That's when I saw her. She was alone, sitting at a table across from mine, slicing into a slab of venison with the slow precision of if someone could kill with a fork if necessary. Her skin was pale and smooth, framed by a curtain of jet black hair. Her eyes, ice blue, sharp as glass, cut across the room and landed squarely on me. Not just looking, measuring. She wore black leather molded to her form, stitched with silver in a pattern that looked ornamental, but wasn't. Her boots were worn but quiet. A pair of dark-lensed goggles sat idle on her head, resting just beneath a hood that had been pulled back. Pointed ears peeked through dark hair. A half-elf, most likely. The lean grace of an Automer with the bite of a Nord underneath. She didn't flinch when I stood and walked over. Mind if I join you?
Only if you're not trying to sell me something.
Just trying to enjoy my drink with better company. Garrick.
Alexandria?
Mercenary?
Among other things.
You look like you've seen a few things.
So do you. You ever heard of a manor near the Reach? No names, no locals, just an invitation and a promise of gold. I've been asked to attend.
A feast?
Private, high class, the kind where people pretend to be civil while sharpening their daggers near the table.
You gone?
I was. Still am, but something about it stinks. Too many questions, not enough answers.
Now you're thinking backup might be smart.
I'm not scared, but it's good to have someone who knows what to do when the wine turns to blood.
You found the right man for that. The hearth crackled beside us, casting a flickering amber light across the weathered wood and tankards of the Winking Skeever. Alexandria and I leaned into the warmth, our drinks in hand, our weapons at rest. For now, there was a rare silence between us.
You ever get tired of the hunt?
Only one I miss.
Tell me why.
I once tracked what I thought was a ghost haunting the cliffs near Dragon's Bridge. Folks swore they heard a little girl singing at night. Sweet voice, sad melody, the kind that makes your heart ache. She might spook. She turned her head, but her face wasn't a child. It was a husk, hollowed eyes, and stretched skin. Some kind of ancient thing that fed off sorrow, allure.
What did you do?
I didn't flinch. Just said, "You're not even the worst dinner date I've had." Then I drew my steel and carved her down, while she screamed in the voices of the ones she lured. All of them screamed over each other like a choir from oblivion.
Gods.
The worst part? I woke up the next morning with the doll in my satchel, sewn from my cloak, had my face stitched on it. I keep it on my mantle. It makes a good coat hook.
You're a lunatic.
Takes one to know one. Why I hunt?
And the real reason why you keep doing it.
There was once a small town, nameless now, peaceful. They took me in when I had nothing. Gave me a bed, a job, a place to belong. One night, I came back from a hunt. Found the whole place gutted. Bodies torn open, drained, Some turned. The thing that did it was still there. A fledgling vampire, young and stupid. Thought it'd make a name for itself. Said it left me alive so I could spread the tale of its power. I spread the tale alright, with a torch and a silver blade. I burned his name from history, but the villagers, those people, were family. That's when I stopped hunting for corn. There was no need for words after that.
You ever hear the saying, power loves secrecy? Well, my mother lived by it. She was an Altmer sorceress, though you never know what to look at her then. She was cloaked in temple robes. She was healing pilgrims, whispering blessings to the desperate. A priestess, everyone thought. But it was a disguise, one she wore with precision. She practiced blood magic in secret, deep forgotten rites that make stone weep and shadows bleed, and she caught the attention of someone powerful.
Your father?
A high general in Clan Volkihar, cold, brilliant, and utterly loyal to his vampire high society. He wasn't supposed to fall for anyone, especially not some mortal, but he saw what she could do, what they could create. I was born of that alliance, raised in seclusion, hidden even from the clan for years. I had my father's blood, and my mother's mind. My resistance to sunlight was discovered early. More than a gift than a curse, they'd say. But gifts come with expectations. They wanted a perfect weapon. The clan trained me in combat, sent me on missions before I was grown. My mother taught me spells to unravel a soul. I was their secret, their edge. Until I began to ask questions about freedom, about life beyond their war. My mother tried to bind my will with a soul snare. My father ordered me to turn fully, enslaved to the blood.
Ah, so you ran.
No. I fought, and I made sure they knew what they created couldn't be controlled. I burned down the temple where I was born, left their soldiers in pieces. I've been hunted ever since, but I hunt back harder. And before you ask, yes, I've come close to death. Once a vampire assassin from another clan ambushed me in the pale, slit my throat from behind before I even saw his blade. I was half dead in the snow, freezing, bleeding out.
What saved you?
The mistake he made. He waited to watch me die. Thought he'd savor it. I blacked out, but when I came to, he was in pieces around me. I didn't even remember doing it. Whatever's in my blood doesn't die easy. So here I am, neither vampire nor mortal, hunted by both. I figure I put all that hate and fire to good use.
To the monsters we were born to kill?
And the ones we were born from.
The Memoirs of Garrik al-Viktor, Volume 4, 20th of 2nd Seed, 4E 206. We reached the mouth of the cave just as the last light died behind the mountains. The snow had been relentless for hours, blanketing everything in silence. Alexandria moved ahead of me, barely disturbing the white. She had the stride of a predator, graceful, focused, coiled for violence beneath the calm. The trail had vanished a mile back, but she hadn't needed it. The cave sat nestled in a jagged cleft of rock like a wound in the mountains. No sign, no torches, just a dark gash in the stone, hidden beneath the curtain of frostbitten pine and time. You never know it was there unless you were invited. I hate when the rich try to be mysterious. Alexandria said nothing, eyes fixed on the entrance, her breath misted in the cold, slow and steady. The closer we got, the more tense she became, not fearful, but alert, like an instinct rising through her blood. She finally spoke in a low voice as I nodded. The kind that doesn't rot like normal things. I knelt down by a patch of disturbed snow near the entrance. Tracks. 3 sets of boots. Heavy, expensive, not meant for climbing. And something else. Claws. Large. Not a wolf. Not something natural. Guests have already arrived.
Quiet if we can.
The invitation hadn't said much, only that the feast would be held at Bloodchill Manor. and that discerning appetites were expected. I think that meant vampires. Aristocrats of the night playing at civility while draining their enemies dry between courses. They'll expect showmanship.
They'll expect weakness.
We both stared into the dark, jagged throat of the cave. Are you ready?
I'm always ready.
Entrance towards the place where warmth was a lie, where the dead feasted behind golden plates. And we didn't look back.